In this video, I'm going to tell you what you need to be ready for each hazard level, so you can help your teammates kill bugs, collect Morkite, hook up the pump jacks, and complete the missions without being a burden on the team. First off, how do you use the hazard level system? You can come to your mission selection, and if you look on the server list, here on the left side, you can select what missions are going to show up in your search. Hazard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see the hazard level here. Here's a 3, here's a 4, here's a couple 5s. It uses the same symbol as map complexity, as this sort of cave complexity, but don't get confused between those two. And if you want to make your own game, you come here, you can do solo, public, friends. It's going to be, by default, put you on hazard 2, right? But you can select 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you do the assignment to unlock Hazard 5, you'll be able to do that. Now, Hazard 2 is pretty much good for everyone. It is the default, right? That's what it's going to set it to right when you first start up the game. So that's good for pretty much anyone. If you have trouble in Hazard 2, you can always bump it down to 1. But for many of you, you'll find that Hazard 2 isn't that hard. You're doing very well. You're killing all the bugs. The bugs are almost never killing you, and you're completing all your missions without any problems at all. You can bump it up to Hazard 3. Hazard 3 is pretty much good for anyone. No special requirements. It's really not that hard. The jump in difficulty from 2 to 3 is really not that much. Once you go from 3 to 4 and 4 to 5, these jumps are much bigger. So Hazard 4, what do you need to play Hazard 4? Should someone play Hazard 4 right off the bat? Well, if you're good enough, anyone can play Hazard 4. That being said, I'd say the big thing that I'd like you to know before you jump into a Hazard 4, right? If someone has got a Hazard 4 here, like this guy, what might you want to know before you jump into his game so you don't frustrate him, disappoint him? Well, first I'll say most people are pretty friendly. If you're totally new and you jump into a Hazard 4, even if they kind of have to carry you a bit, they're generally not that angry about it. But I would say, you see this icon and the title, Elimination? I'd like you to understand that. That would probably be a good thing to know before you jump into his mission. So what I mean by that is, you look here, here are the mission types available in the different regions right now. So you have the mining expedition, you have the on-site refining, the escort duty, the egg hunt. You should kind of understand how these missions work before you join it in Hazard 4. So like this one's point extraction. So you can tell by the icon and it'll actually say point extraction, and you need to get 7 Aquarks and 15 Apoca Bloom. Now, if you're still new to the game, you feel like Hazard 3 isn't too much of a challenge, so you join a Hazard 4 of this one. Okay, well, you're going to be in someone's game, and it's all of a sudden going to be quite a bit more difficult than you're used to in Hazard 3, and you're going to be trying to learn how this mission works at the same time, and it might get kind of overwhelming, and you might not be able to help out the team as much as they need you to help out the team. So I would say the big requirement before you go into a Hazard 4 mission is take a look at the mission type, and you should say that you understand it, right? Not only should you feel like Hazard 3 isn't too difficult, but point extraction, you understand point extraction. Egg hunt, you understand egg hunt. You know what it's like to get a Apoca Bloom, or, when it says exterminate 10 Fester fleas, you know what to do to make that happen. It's just going to be overwhelming if you don't know how the mission type works. Now, you'll sometimes see someone will list out. They'll say like, oh, you got to be on a promoted dwarf. I don't see anything like that right now. They'll say like, oh, you got to be on a promoted dwarf. You got to be level 25 to join their Hazard 4. I don't think that's necessary. That being said, if that's what they write on their description and you're not promoted, well, then don't bother joining them. You'll just annoy them. But I'd say the only thing that kind of really helps, when you level up, you get access to all these sort of side upgrades to your weapons and your armor. I'd say that sometimes, if you don't have level 15, which is this tier on your armor, it can be kind of difficult. Let's say you got a couple guys who are fairly experienced and a couple new guys in a Hazard 4. The newer guys, they don't have level 15 on their dwarf yet, so they don't have the ability to buy this breathing room invulnerability. So the 2 experienced guys, they might die, they might fall every once in a while, and they'll pick each other up. And when they get picked up, they're invulnerable for 6 whole seconds, you know? But when they come to pick up the new players, those new players aren't invulnerable for 6 seconds, and it gets kind of sketchy because a lot of times the newer players need to be picked up more often. So if you want a requirement for how leveled up you should be before you join Hazard 4, it's mostly player skill, and it's mostly knowledge of how these mission types works and how you're going to play them. But it does help to be level 15 on the class that you're going to bring. Now, Hazard 5. Hazard 5 is another decent jump in difficulty from Hazard 4. What should you have and what should you know before you go to Hazard 5? I'd say this is where it helps to, be maybe level 18. That's where everything is unlocked, or promoted, being on a promoted dwarf, so that way you've had a decent amount of time to learn your class and all that stuff. I'd say, though, again, it's about player experience. That's what really matters in terms of joining someone's Hazard 5 game. And I'd say if you want to join someone's Hazard 5 game, I don't want you to just understand the mission type, but also you should understand immediately the region, right? Glacial strata, this is where things are more resistant to frost. Magma core, this is where they're more resistant to fire. Still, you need to understand the mission type, on-sign refining, elimination, but also, as the final thing, if you really want to join someone's Hazard 5 and not be a burden, let's say you're going to go on engineer, you should know all sort of 5 of your tools that you're going to be using to help out your team. By that I mean your primary weapon, your secondary weapon, your traversal tool, your utility, and your grenade. So, like, let's say you're going to bring engineer onto escort, someone's escort. So you should still know, like, okay, this is the radioactive exclusion zone. You should know a little bit about what that region means. You should know how this level works. You can see it says 2 here. That means the drill dozer is going to need to be refueled twice. You're going to know how to get the Apocabloom. That's not too complicated. But also, you should have a plan. How are you going to use your 5 tools on escort to help your team win? So I don't care if you use Stubby, right, or the Warthog, but you should have a plan for how you're going to use it. Maybe when the on the Amaran fight, you're going to use the Deep Core PGL to shoot the tips off the beamers. That works. Maybe you're going to use the Breach Cutter. Maybe you're going to use the platform gun to block the rocks, or you're going to really stock up on proximity mines. You don't throw any proximity mines out the first phase of the Amaran fight. You throw them out on the second phase to kill the bugs so everyone can sort of focus on the rocks. I mean, there are multiple ways to play this. Gemini, Mark II, there are multiple ways to build this class. There are multiple strategies to tackle the mission. I just want you to have a decent idea of how you're going to use all 5 tools, all 5 of your main tools at your disposal to help your team win the Hazard 5 mission. If you're level 20, but you're decent, you're finding that Hazard 4 isn't much of a challenge, and you have a decent idea of how you're going to use all 5 tools to help your team win this low oxygen escort duty Hazard 5 mission, well then fine, I'd say that's okay. You might have some people saying that they want you to be promoted, and if they do say that, well, then don't join if you're not promoted. But the main thing is, before you jump up a hazard difficulty, 1, you should feel like the previous difficulty is no longer that difficult to you, and then it just relies more on your game knowledge. First, for going up to Hazard 4, understand the missions. For understanding Hazard 5, you should understand the missions, the regions, and all 5 tools that you're going to bring on the class that you've decided to bring. And Elite Deep Dives are similar to Hazard 5. It does help, though, if you have an overclock or 2 on a class you're very familiar with before you jump into someone's Elite Deep Dive. And by the way, People will post their elite deep dives within hours of a new one being released. It's great to go check out their elite deep dives and see what sort of objectives you're going to have to face, whether you're going to be fighting dreadnoughts or doing a lot of the black boxes and stuff for your elite deep dives. But that's about it. Bonus tip, you can use Enor pearls as reusable flares. It also works with air cubes too.